All right, so with Duelist Advanced right around the corner, it's time to look ahead at how this core set is going to shake up the current meta. From brand new strategies to very powerful support cards, there's a lot to be excited about. And let's not forget that Battles of Legend Monster Mayhem dropped just 2 weeks ago. Sadly, not for everyone in the world, as we all already know, RIP us Europeans. But for those that are able to pick up the new cards, there are some very good decks you can be playing right now. And today we're breaking down top 5 decks that are positioned to take over once Duelist Advance drops. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like and share your thoughts in the comments. I would love to know which deck you're picking up for next season. So with that, let's jump into it. The first deck on today's list is one I'm personally most excited about, and it's Lunalight. Now, this deck was crazy back in the day, if you remember. And Lunalight Tiger is very conveniently unlimited again in TCG. Yes, that's a little scary. And it's about to get scarier. Let's check out some support. Essentially, this strategy is just an incredible fusion-based deck that's able to play some Link monsters as well. You'll see, end boards are usually going to include the likes of SP and like a very broken fusion monster or two that you can't really deal with. So with that, let us talk about the fusion monster, which is going to be quite a problem in this next format. Lunalight Liger Dancer requires Leo Dancer and 3 Lunalight monsters. It has to be fusion summoned with the fusion materials, and it is unaffected by card effects except Lunalight cards. Now, there are also instances where you're able to end on a Baguska, which is not going to be affecting Liger Dancer, meaning that your card is just chilling over there with an additional effect, which is to destroy all your opponent's special summoned monsters as a soft once per turn. Keep that in mind. And Baguska is just going to make your opponent's life a struggle. And then there's the Link monsters and everything else we already talked about. So the end boards are crazy. The fusion is completely crazy. If your deck cannot deal with this, I don't know what you're going to be playing. So let us talk about the next fusion. Perfume Dancer. It requires 2 Lunalight monsters, and if it's fusion summoned, you're able to add a Lunalight perfume from your deck to your hand. It's got additional effects such as you're able to target a Lunalight card you control, return it to the hand or extra deck, then you can special summon 1 Lunalight monster from your hand, meaning that you can summon the one you bounced, and since most of the Lunalight cards are soft once per turn, you're able to abuse them like crazy. So moving on, we also have Lunalight Masquerade, which is a spell card, a continuous spell card, if it was activated this turn, you're able to send a Lunalight monster from your deck to the grave. And then if you fusion summon a Lunalight monster, you're actually able to get your hands on a polymerization and also use materials from the graveyard later in the turn. The card is completely broken, but I also wanted to talk about Silver Hound. Now this one, it's crazy. It's crazy. If it's sent to the grave by card effect, you can special summon a Lunalight monster from your deck. And then you're locked into Lunalights from the extra deck only while you control that face-up monster. So you're not locked until the end of the turn. You can still get to the Baguska, SP, whatever you want to do. But yes, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's completely crazy. And then you also have a Spell Trap Negate, banishing this card and a Lunalight fusion monster from your graveyard, which is such a cool interaction, actually. And then we also need to talk about the last card, which is Gold Leo. It's searching a Lunalight monster when it's normal or special summoned. Lunalights are gonna be insane. That's all I'm saying. This deck is super strong and is able to play through hand traps very nicely from what I've seen. So in my opinion, it's one of the top decks to look out for. Let's move on to the next deck, which is actually just going to be Mitsurugi Raizyu. We don't have to spend too much time talking about that deck. It is still incredibly solid. Mitsurugi is a broken engine, which I think is obvious by now. And Raizyus just add that consistency and just another broken engine that you need to bridge from one to the other, to hand loop, to just make your opponent miserable pretty much by playing this deck. It's incredibly broken, and by now I think you all know that it's established itself as the top deck of the format, and I think that's still going to be the case moving forward. But one thing to keep in mind with any deck you're going to be picking up in this next format is you have got to be able to deal with Liger Dancer. That's like the most important thing. If you cannot do that, again, I don't know what you're going to be doing. Probably just playing Lunalight, I guess. Moving on to the third deck on today's list, it's going to be Malice at Ignister. Another deck that doesn't need a lot of introduction because Malice has been around for quite some time now. It is just a very, very solid combo deck that's able to end on some half boards if they get Charmies. Being able to play through Charmies is super important, and I would say Malice does that quite well. It does depend on how you draw, and that also goes for your opponent drawing Lancia. You do want to get your hands on the backup at Ignister, but if you're able to combo under Lancia with the help of that card, I think you're probably winning. So Lancia is not that crazy against it anymore, but it still kind of low-key is the silver bullet, just like Droll is for Mitsurugi. That's why I also think some people will gravitate towards newer decks because they play through these hand traps a little easier. So yes, Malice is just completely crazy. With the new support, it's just able to generate so much advantage to the point where if you get your board broken, you're probably still winning just from the sheer amount of follow-up you have and the ability to go into a grind game. Moving on to deck number 4 on today's list, it's going to be Memento. I had a hard time deciding what I also want to include because I think Memento is kind of like an underdog deck, sort of, because people just choose Malice as a combo deck, Raizio Mitsurugi as a combo deck. Not to mention there's plenty Mitsurugi variants out there, and with that in mind, it was tough to decide. There's also Mermail, which is a crazy deck, but I feel like Memento is just super, super solid because you can also play it with Fiendsmith, and I think that version is actually superior. I mean, including Fiendsmith in anything, it just makes the deck better, don't you agree? So yeah, Memento is just a super solid deck. It's got a gazillion combos, which can play through a lot of hand traps. Not to mention that right now, some of the hand traps that hurt this deck the most are not played anymore because they're just not as great into other matchups. And if that continues to be the case, Memento is just going to shine even more. Now, moving on to the last deck on today's list, it was a tough choice. And between you and me, I did not make a choice. I'm just going to mention some crazy support cards coming out of both Duelist Advance and Battles of Legend Monster Mayhem to make it easier for you to decide what deck you want to pick up. Now, if you've been keeping track as to what decks have been topping lately, because obviously Monster Mayhem has been out for about 2 weeks now in North America, you can see that Punk is doing well, some Orcust variants are doing well, even Gem Knight was able to top. Now, with all of that in mind, I still want to focus on all of these support cards and just quickly go through them and mention what you can play. So Orcust received 2 crazy support cards. They are both links. One of them is a link 1 that requires an Orcust or World Legacy monster, and you're able to send a card from your hand to the graveyard to add a World Legacy monster or an orchestrated babble to your hand from the deck or graveyard, which is nice because it's able to get you access to both spell and trap, whereas before that wasn't the case, and it's also able to resummon itself back for an additional body. Not to mention that because it's requiring an Orcust monster, you can pretty much bridge into it from anything, even Dingirsu, which is crazy. And then there's another link, which is just completely broken. You're able to target one of your banished Orcust or World Legacy cards, add it to the hand, and then shuffle 1 card from your hand into the deck to take control of a face-up monster your opponent controls. And it's also got an additional effect that sends a card on the field to the graveyard when a specific condition is met. So both of them are very, very nice, and people have started to play Orcust together with Fiendsmith as well as Mitsurugi, and I think both versions are very solid. Moving on to Punk support, there's Rising Scale, which is just, everyone says this is like the perfect support for Punk. It's basically a special summon, and upon special summon, you can add to your hand or special summon a Punk monster from your deck or graveyard except a level 8 monster, so it's just literally providing you so many bodies. And not to mention, it's also got a very convenient Book of Moon effect. And there's also a Xyz monster that you can take a look at for that strategy over here. And then we've got Vanquish Soul support, Holly Sue, as well as Vanquish Soul Rocks, Vanquish Soul Start, which this one particularly I think is very nice because it's able to add a Vanquish Soul monster with a different attribute from your deck to your hand than the one you targeted. So you gotta control one, target it, add a different one, and that's super strong because Vanquish Soul historically struggled with starters. It's obviously got other support cards as well that you can check out if you want to. But I feel like Vanquisher Soul might be an interesting deck to pick up. Moving on to the last support I want to mention, it is Sky Striker. Of course, we got to talk about Sky Striker support. So we have Sky Striker Ace 0, which requires 2 Sky Striker Ace monsters, and then there's also Sky Striker Special Maneuver Lemnis Gate. So both of these are definitely going to help out the Sky Striker strategy, but among all of this support, it was super tough to decide which deck I actually want to put as the number 5 on this slot, because it's also gotta be meta relevant, and there's so many other decks out there that are just able to easily take an event. We already talked about Mermail. There's all these Mitsurugi variants. Gem Knight, I haven't even mentioned in all of this, but it also received support in Monster Mayhem. So please take a look at all of that and truly decide for yourself. And let me know in the comments which deck you would place as the number 5 on this list, and just overall if you agree or disagree with my choices, and if you're as excited as I am for this Nats season. So with that, if you like the video, of course like it as well. It really helps the channel. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!